All right, so get this. Today, we're diving into the world of career counseling.
Okay.
But, like, with a digital twist, we're really going deep into the work of this guy, Joachim Kau.
Yeah.
He's a career counselor from Sweden who's basically like a tech whiz when it comes to helping people find their dream careers.
He really is.
Yeah.
And his website, digicao, is like, wow. It's like a masterclass in how to use technology to guide people in their career journeys.
Love that. Masterclass.
Yeah, and it's everything from AI to video conferencing to even, good old-fashioned conversations.
It's interesting you say that because I noticed that too.
Yeah.
And you know what's really cool? He doesn't just talk about these digital tools. His website actually shows you how he uses them in his practice.
Exactly.
He even has this really neat concept called the, are you ready for this? Student wheel, which we will get to.
Yeah, we will.
A little bit later.
It's a fantastic example of what he calls digilog guidance.
Okay.
Which is a term that was actually coined by educator Helen Larson.
Yep.
And essentially it's about blending the digital and the analog approaches to create a more kind of well-rounded and engaging experience for the individual.
Okay, digilog guidance. I am so here for this.
Yes.
This is fascinating. Can you give me an example of how Joachim uses this blend in his work?
Absolutely. So he talks about using online forms that clients fill out before an in-person meeting.
Interesting.
And he asks specific questions on these forms about their challenges, their aspirations, and this allows him to really tailor the in-person session to their needs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all about maximizing that face-to-face time.
That makes total sense. So instead of spending that valuable time gathering basic information, he can jump right into those deeper conversations.
Exactly.
It's like prepping the canvas before you start painting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really streamlines the whole process, and it just allows for a much more focused and impactful interaction.
I love that. Okay, so we see how he kind of sets the stage for these digilog sessions, but I'm curious, what are some of the specific tools that he uses to kind of bring this to life? I know he mentions a few on his website.
It does.
Yeah, he mentions Padlet, Zoom, Microsoft Forms, and he doesn't, he's not just name-dropping these things. He actually explains how he uses them in his counseling practice.
Yeah, and what I think is really neat about that is, these aren't some super expensive exclusive tools. These are things that are readily available, and with a little imagination, you can see how they could be incorporated into, other educational settings as well.
It's like he's saying, look, you don't need a fancy lab to innovate in this field.
Right.
You just need to be clever and resourceful.
Exactly. And one tool that I find particularly fascinating is Padlet.
Oh, yeah?
He uses it for something called interactive mind mapping.
Okay.
Which I think is just brilliant for career exploration.
Okay, say more about that. How does that work exactly?
So imagine this. You are working with a student. Maybe they're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed by all the possibilities out there.
Yeah.
With Padlet, you can actually create a digital mind map together in real time.
So you could have careers I'm curious about in one bubble, and then skills I enjoy using in another.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can add links, videos, images, all of that to each bubble.
Wow.
And as you're building this mind map together, you start to see all these connections and patterns emerge.
Oh, that's cool.
Maybe the student realizes, oh, I'm really drawn to these creative fields that I hadn't even considered before.
Interesting.
Or, wow, my love for problem solving could actually lead me down a completely different path.
It's like taking all those thoughts and ideas that are swirling around in a student's head and giving them a tangible form, a way to visualize their potential. I love that.
It's incredibly powerful, and it really speaks to that digilog approach we were talking about.
Yeah.
Using technology to enhance, not replace, those important human interactions.
And it's funny you should mention that because it reminds me of the student wheel that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course. It actually ties in beautifully to what we were just discussing. So Joachim uses a tool called Coach Podium to create this student wheel. It's essentially an interactive wheel where students can input their skills, interests, values, you name it.
It's like creating a personalized profile, but in a really engaging and visual way.
Yes. And the beauty of it is it helps students see themselves more holistically. It's not just about what subjects am I good at. It's also what kind of environment do I thrive in?
I like that.
What values are important to me in a career? All of that.
And all of that information kind of comes together on this wheel to give them a more comprehensive picture of themselves and their potential career paths.
Precisely. It's about connecting those dots in a way that traditional methods sometimes miss. And this is where technology can play such a transformative role.
It's like giving students a compass and a map at the same time.
Yes.
And speaking of impact, one thing that really struck me while I was browsing Joachim's website was the testimonial section.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Have you had a chance to look at that?
That's where you really get a sense of the human impact of his work. Reading those testimonials is incredibly inspiring.
They're so powerful, and you can tell that he's truly making a difference in these people's lives. There was one quote that really stuck with me. It said, "Yogi's guidance gave me the courage to pursue a career I had always dreamed of, but never thought was possible.
Wow.
He helped me see my own potential."
And that's what it's all about, right? It's about empowering those individuals to believe in themselves and pursue their passions.
Absolutely, and it just highlights that while technology can be a powerful tool, it's ultimately about those human connections
Yeah.
and the belief that someone has in you that can make all the difference.
That's a really important point.
Yeah, it's like he found this like remarkable balance, between using technology, but also remembering that at the heart of it all, it's about connecting with people.
Absolutely. And it makes me think about, how important it is for career counselors, to actually be comfortable using these digital tools. I mean, you wouldn't want someone using a power tool if they had no idea how to handle it right.
Right. That could be dangerous.
Exactly.
You need to know how to use those tools effectively and safely to achieve the desired outcome.
Yeah.
So how do we ensure that counselors are properly equipped to use technology in their practice?
Well, I think for starters, training and professional development are key.
Okay.
We need to make sure that counselors have access to resources, opportunities to learn how to use these digital tools confidently and ethically.
It's like giving them the instruction manual and then a safe space to practice before they start building anything too complex.
Exactly. And beyond just the technical skills, it's also about helping counselors understand how to integrate these tools into their existing practices in a way that feels organic and authentic to them.
Right, because if they're not comfortable using a certain tool, it's going to show.
Exactly.
And that could impact their interactions with students.
Precisely. It's about finding that synergy, right?
Yeah.
Between the counselor's expertise, the student's needs, and the technology that can kind of bridge that gap.
It's like assembling a team, right? With all the right skills to tackle a complex project. You need everyone working in sync to get, the best results. So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into Joachim Kau's work, what are some, key takeaways that our listeners can kind of reflect on?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway here is the power of that digitalog approach. This idea of blending those digital tools with those essential human elements of guidance. It's about using technology to create these richer, more engaging, personalized experiences, for individuals who are seeking career direction.
It's like weaving a tapestry. You're using all these different threads, technology, human interaction, personal reflection to create something beautiful and meaningful.
I love that analogy. That's beautiful. And as technology continues to evolve at this, incredible pace, I think it's crucial to remember that the human element will always be paramount in career guidance. It's about empowering those individuals, fostering their self-belief, and guiding them towards those fulfilling and meaningful career paths.
Beautifully said. And on that note, for those of you who, like me, are completely fascinated by Joachim Kau's work and want to explore further, we'll be sure to link to his website and the resources that we discussed in the show notes. This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
Until next time.